Do you want to know how to grout your next mosaic art project? In this video, I'm going to show you how. I'm going to give you 5 of my best tips, which will help you make a huge success of your next project. Hi everyone, my name is Tanya from Upcycling Inspiration. Here we talk about anything to do with upcycling. Upcycling is basically just taking what's old and making it new again. For this project, I decided to make a bird bath from an old pot that I had lying around. I used Mosaic to do this. I really like how Mosaic tiles can brighten up any old thing. And there's just a few tips and tricks you need to know on how to do Mosaic. It's actually very, very simple. So in this video, I want to give you 5 tips on how to successfully grout any art project. So I'm going to use my example of my bird bath, but of course you can use whatever project you are doing. The same principles apply. So let's get started. Tip number 1. What grout should I use? So basically the answer to this is, where are you going to use your art project? If you're doing a pot or an artwork that will actually be outside, you should use tile bond in your project. This helps to seal and protect your art from any of the outside elements. If you're going to use something inside, then it's okay to mix your grout with water. So that is one of the first things you need to think about. I usually just use tile bond because I'm not always sure where I'm going to use my pot, inside or outside. And by using tile bond, I know basically I can use it anywhere. The next thing is, what color of grout do you need to use? There's obviously a range of different colors. You can go from very dark with your grays to very light whites. It obviously depends on the type of art you've got and what look and feel you want with it. I prefer to go light. Usually I do use a lot of white in my backgrounds, and I just find that it's much cleaner. So it depends if you want maybe a dramatic effect. Obviously you can do it, play around, you know. The dark might give it a dark and moody effect and maybe bring out the colors, and a light one is more maybe elegant and stylish, and it all depends on the look you're going for. My suggestion is try both and see what personally you like best. You can't really go wrong. Tip number 2. How do you actually mix your grout? So basically take your powder, put it in a bowl, and then slowly, little by little, you can add your tile bond or your water. In my case, I've used tile bond, as I've explained before. So do not pour too much at one stage, because you can easily lose a consistency and it might get too runny for your project. So to know what the best consistency is basically, if you've made icing sugar in your life before, it's basically the same concept. Alright, you want it runny enough so that it can easily spread and go into all the little holes between your little tiles, but you don't want it so runny that it doesn't want to stick nicely on your tiles, and it will basically make holes in your artwork, or your grout won't be as even as you want it. Alright, so a good tip is just, if you can decorate a cake with it, you can probably decorate or your artwork with it as well. Tip number 3. If your artwork is not flat, try and get the widest part of your artwork at the bottom. So what I mean is, if you're basically going to use a pot to grout, make sure that the widest part is at the bottom. Same concept again as icing a cake. Just make sure that it's that you can evenly spread it over your in this case your pot, so that it fills evenly within all the holes. Tip number 4. It's very tempting to quickly clean your pot and get all your grout off your tiles, alright, because you want to see what it's going to look like. Don't do it too soon. Try and leave your grout on your project for a little while, not to completely dry, but just to start setting. This will make it much easier in the long term. If you're going to do it too soon, you are basically going to sort of scratch your grout, so you will see that it's not as even. So keep your grout on your pot very rough for about I would say half an hour at least, depending on, of course, where you are. If it's very sunny and dry, you can actually do it sooner. But when it's very cold and rainy, I would suggest you can even leave it up to an hour. And then you can slowly start removing the grout with a little wet sponge and wipe it off the tiles. Be careful not to go too deep into your grooves, because that will actually remove the grout too deeply. You still want it very evenly in those crevices around your pot. So as you go through this process, you will see that your tiles will still be a bit dirty. That is good. Leave it for the night and let it dry completely. Tip number 5. After you have left your artwork for the night, you are basically ready to clean it up completely. So in this last process, you're going to remove the last bit of your grout from your tiles to make it shiny and clean. I would suggest that you start with a dry cloth and just start rubbing every little tile individually. That might be enough to polish and shine it. If you see there are places where you can't remove all of the grout, then you can just wet your cloth and then gently just remove that. Be sure not to be too rough with it, but at this stage, because it is dry, it should all be fine. And there you go. You've got a beautiful new mosaic artwork, and it's actually a very, very simple process. If you've recently done any mosaic projects, tell me in the comments about it. Thank you for watching my video, and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Goodbye.